those issues, I think it would be very helpful.
I call the Honourable Member Chris Whawhaui. Te loa ni.
Ohani, Mr Chair. I'd just like to take a relatively quick call on part 3, which is contained in the SOP, which has been put forward by the Minister to this bill. And I just did want to reiterate that on this side of the House we do support our prisons being smoke-free. And I just wanted to outline our rationale for that too. I think Charles Chauvel has pointed to some concerns that he has around the retrospectivity of the new smoking part of this amendment bill. But Labor does support smoke-free prisons. As I said in my previous contribution, we think it's good for the overall health of the inmates, and we do need to look at that as part of their rehabilitation, that we try and get them back on I guess the phrase could be the straight and narrow. And by supporting them being smoke-free, we think that is a wise thing to do. We do have concerns about the way that the government previously introduced this measure. We did say that it should have been done legislatively. That wasn't done, and we do have this SOP before us as well. We do support also, of course, our prison officers having a smoke-free workplace environment. I think at the outset, when this measure was proposed by the government, there was some concern that this might cause a level of disquiet amongst the inmates. But I think since it has been introduced, on the whole, I think they may have said this at the Law and Order Select Committee as a side issue to what has been proposed in the bill before this SOP was introduced, that the smoking ban in prisons to date has worked quite well, and any issues that they thought may have arisen, and I think they reasonably may have thought that, given how closely the prisoners guarded their cigarettes before the ban was in place, hasn't necessarily eventuated. And I think that kudos must have to go to the way that Corrections has brought that in, and some of the support that they had given to the inmates as the smoking was banned. I do just want to touch on again on some of the politics of this, and I think the government will be very happy that this is being debated at 9:45, because this has not been a good look for it. It's had to introduce this supplementary order paper to make this change, when it made the change in another way, when the Labor opposition warned that it should have done it legislatively. And I do have a certain amount of sympathy for the Minister and the Chair, because she's not necessarily to blame for the fact that this SOP has had to be introduced and that this has had to be done this way, because it was the previous Minister of Corrections who I guess didn't heed some of the, I guess you could call it, opposition or suggestion from the Labor Party that it should have been done legislatively. And maybe kudos has to go to the Minister and the Chair for bringing this to the House by way of SOP. Unfortunately, we're not going to support it because of the way that this is eventuated, and it's part of a bill that we have concerns around other parts, most notably the private management of our prisons, and of course something in part 1 around the change to the regime for strip searching. But just in conclusion, Mr Chair, we just want to reiterate our support for smoke-free prisons. We're not happy about the way that this is happening now, considering that we did warn the government much earlier on, before these changes came in, that it should have done it by law. It didn't, and now it finds itself in the strange position of having to do this in a rather hasty manner, and by the way of SOP. We do want to make sure that our prisons are safe and a good workplace environment, especially for those prison officers who have to deal day to day with some of the issues that inmates can cause.
Mr Chairman.
I call the Honourable Minister Anne Tolley.